Coming up on That's a Great Point. Look forward to Friday every day of the week. Oh, can't wait till Friday gets here. Can't wait till Friday gets here. Friday gets here, what do? You sit on the couch. You might go mow the grass in your yard, and that is it. Like, what kind of a life is that?
hmm Yeah. I mean, think about it. Exactly. You have the Sunday scaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have the Monday blues. You
Mm-hmm.
have hump day, right? Oh, halfway, just 2 more days. You have the countdown. Life is always a countdown.
Yeah,
Here's the
yeah, exactly.
weekend. Well, the weekend's here. What are you going to do with it? I'm going to sit here. I'm going to sit here
Mhm.
and complain. That's also what I'm,
Yeah, yeah.
right? We're just
Where are
going
you
to sit
going on
here and
vacation?
complain. And
Well,
then, right?
I'm gonna go to the beach and I'm gonna sit down in a recliner and drink Mai Tais and we'll go out to eat.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Now,
Well,
in defense of
we're
in
gonna go.
defense of
We're
lying
gonna
down.
stop sitting so we can go sit somewhere.
That's right. Let's go take a break from sitting by sitting over there.
If someone asks you how your day is going, and your answer is, "Well, I'm making it," or "I'm getting through," or "Man, I can't wait till Friday," this episode just might be for you. Michelle recently attended a funeral with a trip through the cemetery, and it left her inspired. We reflect on how the lessons of the shortness of life can either keep us playing small and safe and retracted, or we can choose to use our time wisely and live our life to the fullest extent possible. How often do we carry the burdens of the generations that have come before us? And when is it time to set those burdens down so we can live our life our way? If you enjoy our content, please like and subscribe so others can find us more easily. Thank you for playing along. Enjoy. Welcome to That's a Great Point, the attitude adjustment for your soul, where co-hosts Alina Doran, Michelle Albers, and Lee Smart discuss deep topics around a life well lived. Let's start the show. Cool. So this morning I was in leadership development. We started to talk about what is our identity.
Mhm.
Uh, and it was a bunch of things I'd never really put any thought into. Um, so there's a wheel that you go around and you start to look at the wheels: age, race, ethnicity, sex, gender, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status. Um, what else was there? Something about mental and emotional health was on the list, and the question was like, when we identify ourselves and whenever we approach other people, what is it we notice about that identity? And what are we looking for in that? And it was neat to think that, well, some of these things I've never thought about. Religious identity was another one too, religious and or spiritual identity. So it's just thinking about it was like, oh yeah, you know what I actually pay attention to is how people present themselves, their hygiene, how they dress, what their speech patterns are like. Because personally, I'm kind of looking for intelligence. There's a certain level of intelligence in some people that if they're going, yeah, bro, let me tell you what, dog, automatically I know I can't relate. And so there's some of it around, like if I go to a place and I see guys in a convenience store with their clothes hanging off their ass, and it's almost like threat warning goes off. Okay, I need to be hyper vigilant in this space because I may not be safe. So, what are we looking for when we see other people's identity in
Mhm.
such situations? Was kind of the question. It was neat to actually put some thought to it.
It's
How you
great.
like that for a monologue, huh?
It sounds like a great space. That it was a great opening space created to reflect. It sounds like it was nice and roomy, and it's a great way to get to know each other and it clearly left you thinking afterwards. So Sounds like it was an effective
Well, I like
session.
that your word is roomy and mine was boring as shit.
Well, it's how did you experience it? How did you experience it? From the way you described it just now, it
Roomy
sounds,
is definitely a great word for it. Let's I love the political correctness. We're not
well, I will
gonna
say
step
this.
on anybody's toes or
I will say it's
anything with
not,
that one. I'm gonna
this I
put that in the old
genuinely
data banks.
mean. I think it is actually really important and not easy to create a spacious container.
Mhm.
Like my tendency, my default setting has been like deliver the most value in the shortest period of time and get the fuck out.
Mhm.
Like we don't need an hour meeting. Like we need a 20-minute meeting. Let's go, let's go, let's go.
Mhm.
That had been my default meeting. And then I understood the value of space, like that spaciousness to it's like you take like herbal tea, like jasmine tea, you put a flower, it's dried in the water, you give it time and space, it will expand to its full, breadth, width. So it's the same. I really do think there's value in spaciousness, which is very different from boredom, what you just described. So it sounds like it sounds like that line was crossed for you and you went into just boredom.
Yeah, if you have for me specifically, it's probably got more to
Yeah.
do with what's going on outside of that meeting rather than inside of it. Because I've got a task list in my head, like, okay, as soon as this meeting's over, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And just sitting there and listening to people introduce themselves didn't feel as important as, oh, I've got all these tasks on my list I need to get done.
Sounds, yeah, like it was hard to be present with all that you have to do and with these people in the
Yeah.
room.
What's going on in your world, Michelle?
Freezing right now. It's like 19 degrees here today. And I'm like in my studio, like to my left is windows. And
Yep.
I'm feeling the draft in and out, debating on like, do I get a blanket and cozy up? Like, I don't know. But I'm cold.
Hmm.
Oh,
Aw.
other than that, my world, yeah, it's good. I visited southern Minnesota yesterday, and that I have relatives buried there. And so I visited a beautiful cemetery and just spent a hot second saying hello to
Oh, wow.
people I haven't really thought about in a while, except for one of them is my grandfather, who I mentioned on a previous podcast.
Hmm.
So it's kind of just a little bit interesting on the timing, right? And cathartic to just go kind of hang out. And it was cold then too. So
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know. Good.
It's funny how going into those places of the cemeteries, those places of mourning, how it can be a really weird mixture of both fond memories, celebration of life, and that mourning piece that I just man, there's some people that I've buried over the years that can't think about how much different my life would be if they wouldn't have passed away when they did.
Oh, wow. That's a profound statement. You don't even know the whole story.
Hmm.
That's like a profound statement just with all the events of yesterday. I was in southern Minnesota because of a funeral that I was going to see friends to hold space and support them. Um, and then when I went to the cemetery, I didn't know where they were. And it was a small enough cemetery that I could just walk through the whole thing. And I was just I don't know, observing and honoring all of the people who were there. And then when I found my relatives, I had the realization that my grandmother, the one I never met, she died when my mom was 8. She died when she was 40. I saw it on the stone and I was like, whoa, I guess I never really realized she was 40. I knew my mom was 8, but I didn't know she was 40.
Hmm.
And I was just like, gosh, like you said, like how different would the world have been if I would have met her, if she wouldn't have died when my mom was 8. But then also, like, I wouldn't have the one of my aunts that I have because my grandfather remarried. And I don't know, it's just so many. And then, like, I'm 54, almost 55. Like, I'm turning 55 in a couple months. I've had 15 more years than that woman had. I don't know. I just think it does. It makes you reflect and just go in and go, wow, life is interesting. And, why and how and what ifs, not in like a hanging on it way, in a way that brought me anywhere negative. Everything about the whole day felt really beautiful for me. And the last time I was in southern Minnesota was with my mother. It was the only time I ever went. It was probably in college, so decades ago. But it was kind of, I don't know, everything about it warmed my heart, and also like just a smidgy of heartache, but in a really like honoring way, if that makes sense. Because even the funeral itself, right? Like somebody lost a parent. I mean, that's fucking hard.
Mm.
Whether you have a good relationship or a bad relationship, that's hard, just for different reasons. And they had a beautiful relationship, and it was lovely to witness the love in that room and be a part of that, and then to go by myself and honor my ancestors and be inquisitive about that. And I don't know, it was really way more cathartic and healing than I would have imagined, but it was beautiful. Anyway, I can be done, but it was just cool.
Hmm.
I have such a I love what you say about healing and cathartic, and it's a space that, yes, there's a little bit of heartache. I think, right? You said a smidge of heartache and a lot of healing.
Yeah.
And I think cemetery is a very special place to me. I don't associate it with like commercial Halloween ghouls and things like that. I actually love going to cemeteries. Like when I travel, when I visited Paris, I went to the Père Lachaise Cemetery. It's a famous cemetery. I love walking around and reading what's on the monuments and trying to, like, if you only have these few words that loved ones will say about you and will write in stone, what are those words? What do I want to be written about me? What do I want people to say about me? Um, there's also, I love walking through parks with benches that have dedications on them
Mm.
and read the dedications. So we have a lot of parks like that around here in New York where I live, and like walking through alleys and you see like beloved husband, beloved father, dog lover. Sometimes it's tongue in cheek, like, married a woman who made him sleep on the couch a lot. Like
Well,
seriously, I've taken like married to a woman who was always right. I was like, really, it's interesting to read. Some of them are light and humorous, and some of them make me tear up and get really emotional. Um, some are dog lovers, some employees write about their former bosses who passed away because they made their lives so much better. That's how much they meant to them,
mhm.
that they wanted to go out of their way and write something on a bench about how meaningful they were. I think it's a beautiful thing. And in our society, we don't often look at the end. But there's so much
Yeah.
value in looking at the end, because if we worked backwards to the present moment, how much insight would we gain?
Yeah, I'm not a person who normally like I don't need to go to a cemetery to honor my loved ones. It's just not something I need. I can do it anywhere from any place. But knowing I was going to be in the area, I also find cemeteries powerful in a really positive way. Like they always bring me something, right? Like a reflection or like a pause for even just like curiosity about the stories of the people who are there, and like the people who only lived for a few months, or the people who lived for so many decades. And then just like you said, the captions and the one phrase, or the ornamental, like there were a lot of veterans in this cemetery, which surprised me, because most of the time it meant like they're in Fort Snelling here, like they're not in the smaller cemeteries, so I don't know, it was all powerful, and some of them were so old that you couldn't even see the dates anymore or read the words, and then others were, I don't know, it was just a interesting. I just found myself in a place of wonderment and not really even knowing that I needed it, but clearly I did. And I
Mhm.
find it super ironic that we just talked to, like I just brought up my grandfather, who I don't really talk about all the time.
Mhm.
And then there I was visiting my grandfather and my great grandparents and my their great aunts and uncles. And it just like, I don't know.
It's, it's
Kind of feel like
cool.
running with the moment, just tailing our topic that we brought in for today, set it aside for later. Let's talk about legacy. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, I love it. My attachment to cemetery started when I was a very little girl,
No?
in Kiev, Ukraine. And I would come with my family to visit my relatives. And so I never thought of it as a little girl. I didn't think of it as a scary, bad place. Like and by the way, unlike most American cemeteries, the tombstones there at that cemetery are very, very tall, large, and there aren't paved roads. It's you walk in dirt and you clean your loved ones' graves by going to an actual well and like getting water in a bucket, bring them up and clean. Like you can hire somebody to do it, but I remember coming with my parents who would do it themselves. Um, and what's also different about, just for context, versus American cemeteries is you have photographs of the deceased on the tombstone, and you will sometimes read on the tombstone how they died.
Mm.
So because of where it was, so one, you see children, and parents would leave, instead of flowers, they would leave children's toys like rattles, baby rattles on the grave when they would come visit them. And also because of where and when it was, you would see a lot of folks who died from World War II.
Mhm.
Just during World War II, from, and they didn't know if it was battle, where it was, but and it would actually say like, gone, like went to for the orders. He was ordered to go, and that's where he went. So it was a time of a lot of reflection and looking at legacy. Every time I look at cemeteries or benches with dedications, it's the exercise I'm actually going to be bringing into group work
Mm.
of what do you want written on your bench?
Mm. I like that.
All right. And I think about that every time. What do I want? What do I want? You only have like a quick sentence, just a
Mm.
few words. It's not a lot of real estate space.
Let's distill our entire essence down to one sentence.
It all comes to this. And for me, every single time, it all comes down to love. Every single time I think about it. When I go through exercises of distill, 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 in the end, it's I love. I want to leave behind love and kindness.
Hmm.
I don't know. What do you think?
Oh, there's nothing more important than fat stacks of cash, right?
Nothing.
It's,
All that love
I
stuff,
mean,
that was, I didn't mean it. It really
I,
is funny.
I'm taking it all with me to my grave too. That's going to be my padding for my casket. It's going to be just like stacks of hundreds, and
Oh,
that's
like
going
this mug, it's coming with me too. It's going right in there with me. Cheers.
to. For those that don't realize it, I'm a bit sarcastic. I tell you what went through my brain very recently. It's actually kind of we talk about the coincidences and some of these things that just come around in weird ways. Not this last weekend, but the weekend previous. I Tanya and I got some time alone. We were all by ourselves for many hours. We had a really, really great evening together. And as we're laying down to go to sleep, I grabbed a hold of her and we ended up spooning. I started to think about how often and how much time she and I over the years have spent in that same exact position. Her head laying on my left arm, and we're just front to back, spooned up together. And I told her, I said, you know what? We needed to make sure that we're in the same casket together in the same exact position. And then the joke came, well, do we wear clothes or not? I said, well, obviously not, because we spent our whole entire life without clothes in this position. I don't see why we would change it. We'll just put a blanket on us and it'll be fine, you know? But that's
The,
that
the
that's
kids, Your kids and grandkids and hopefully great grandkids are going to have a blast burying the two of you.
Yeah, exactly. So I was asking her, like, my right hand is always reaching over the top. So which boob do I put in my hand? Is it going to be the left boob or is it the right boob? Because that's an important decision.
Did you come to a conclusion that was mutually agreeable?
Oh, I tried both for a while. I think it's going to be the left one.
Okay.
My arm has a little bit more room to rest that way. But no, that's all joking aside, really and truly, that's whenever the both of us have felt most at peace and most whole and most just like this is what the fuck we were meant to do in this on this earth. The both of us is just to be there for each other. Um, so and just kind of going through it, it's like fuck yeah, I'm killing this one. Got something right.
We
And for
were
those that are have that immature bent, like myself, it's like I get to go to bed every single night with a boob in my hand. It's amazing.
if your seventh grade self was here
Oh yeah,
on
just high
in this,
fives, big
right?
time.
Can you imagine if your seventh grader self overheard this?
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Like, I am killing it in life.
Right?
It's like, where am I? This can't be, life cannot be that good.
Yeah,
Like, if this is adulthood,
I'm fucking killing it.
right? But I really, in all seriousness, we are wired to love. We are wired for community, for connection, for seeing each other, understanding each other, right? Connect, connect, connect. All the time, all of us. Yes, we do it differently, different cultural norms and, religions and regions and standards, but we're all wired for love, and that's love broadly speaking, not just romantic love,
Mhm.
certainly that too, but yeah.
So one of the people that I referenced earlier that was gone far too soon is my uncle. He died in a boat accident. He was 32. It was 1998, and I was 14 years old. Um, Wonderful individual. They put on his tombstone. It was lover of life, giver of love,
Mhm.
and that right there, it's a way that helps me center myself, even all these years later. Like, okay, what if something's out of whack? Then I'm not doing one of these things. I'm not loving life, or I'm not giving love. Oh,
That's beautiful.
isn't it?
It is beautiful and concise,
Hmm.
and it's the essence of everything. There it is. It's
That's what I'll
just
put on my park bench. It'll be a lover of life, giver of love two, the sequel.
beautiful. Beautiful. Got goosebumps. Hmm. Michelle, what are your thoughts on life and love and
That's
meaning?
it. That's what we're here for. That's it.
That's it.
That's what we're
Done.
here for. Mic drop. I mean, really. And I think it's just interesting, like to go to a cemetery and explore and just explore, right? I could have looked it up where they were, but it was small enough. I just wanted to walk it, even though it was cold. And to just, I think I had like a different form. I was gonna say level, but I don't want to hierarchy it, but of appreciation for life and the time that we don't know how long it is. We don't my grandmother didn't know she was going to be done at 40, you know? And that event, her death, gave my mom a mission in life to live long enough to see her children graduate from high school. That was her biggest goal. because she wanted to see her kids grown and she wanted to raise them herself. My step grandmother was a wonderful grandmother. I loved her. She was the only grandmother I ever knew. She's my grandma. I never called her step grandma like that. And my mom missed her mom and didn't want her kids to have that, you know? And so I just found myself in like awe and wonderment and curiosity, and really dropped into gratitude for the time that I have had. Because like when I realized my grandma died when she was 40, I was like, wow, I already have almost 15 more years in my life that I was blessed with that she never got.
Mm-hmm.
And how much more do I have? I don't know. You know, my dad's going through some health stuff right now. And I just think it all has me reflecting and just dropped into the present of life is for living. And I'll be damned if I'm stay stuck in the wasting it, in the pain and the stupid worry and anxiety and and I say that's my thing. That's where I go. That's my pattern. I grew up very much in those states that, I could beat up on myself and say I wasted all that time in angst, but I was in that time and in those states in learning. I learned a lot of lessons, the hard way and the long way. And here I am. And I don't think my life would feel this, I don't know if big is the right word, open, blessed, if I hadn't been stuck in the pain for so long. Like I needed the turtle pace to process and navigate everything that I was telling myself. And I needed time to uncover the treasure that is the truth. And I'm not mad about how long it took anymore. And I used to be really mad about that. I used to get pissed that I wasted so much time in pain and anguish from all the things that quote unquote happened to me, or the way I read the world. And it was so wrong. I was so misconstrued on what was really happening because I hated myself, and it's like, so I look at a tombstone of a grandmother I never met who lived for 40 years and brought 2 girls into the world. And I think my mom brought 2 girls into the world and I brought 2 boys into the world. And fuck if I'm not grateful for all of it. I don't know. I don't know that I ever got to a point there. It's really big in my energy right now of just, wow. Time matters so much more than money, more than anything else. It's the thing we can't we can't reproduce it. It goes and it's gone and you can't get that back. And then you don't know how much more forward you're going to go. And yeah, I want to spend way more time in the present. And that cemetery took me there, reflecting on my grandmother and my grandfather's past and my great grandparents. I met my great grandmother. I never met my great grandfather. He died, shortly after I was born. So it's maybe I met him, but I don't remember it. It's just all of that took me to this place of, isn't life interesting? And isn't it amazing that we get one?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'll tell you what I pulled out of there more than anything else was there's way more to living than just being alive.
Yeah.
Always.
And damn if I don't want to make the most of it. Let's fucking go. Let's do some shit. And
Such
let's
a huge
just
piece of what you were talking about that with your mom kind of made me think I lost my mom, so I'm going to live in a safe place where I'm not at risk of being harmed, where and it's just this fear-based motivation. I'm just going to barely make it by. That way I don't die. Rather than I'm going to go out and fucking live life to the best and most fullest potential that I possibly can as a human being. And if something were to happen, then good, because I've already managed to live a life that I can fucking be proud of.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I feel like she did both. I mean, she
Mm.
had a lot of fear, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And she
Obviously, I
didn't
put a
like
lot of
men.
assumptions in there.
Yeah, but it's true. I mean, the worry, I think that's probably part of the reason worry and anxiety was at the forefront of my family,
Mhm.
how it felt to me, right? Oh my God, what if, what if, what if, what if? in a bad way. I look at
Mhm.
what if now in like the best way. What if this could happen? What if that could happen? Not what if fear, 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 fear.
You know, hearing you talk about it raises an inquiry in my mind. Can we have this appetite to live, really live, not exist, without pain, without loss and suffering? Like, can we see the good if we don't have contrast to compare it to, so that we understand that it doesn't have to be this good? We're not owed another day. We're not owed waking up in the morning and our bodies not hurting and our feet freely moving us forward and our eyes seeing and our ears working. It doesn't have to be that good. No, there's nothing owed or promised. So yeah, can one live a life of this kind of great privilege and have the gratitude and the hunger to live, really live, without suffering and loss?
Kind of depends on where we end up pulling our inspiration from. Because I'm thinking of my uncle, even now through it all, it's like he ran his own business and regularly had parties with dozens and dozens of people came to his river house. And he regularly went out on his boat and went skiing, water skiing. Like the dude really freaking lived well. He had so many friends. His funeral to this day was hands down the biggest funeral I've ever seen because of how many people he had close to him, how many people that he loved, and he came from next to nothing. Right, my grandfather was a carpenter. My grandmother was a secretary. That's so he built it. By the time he was 32, he had built a life that was just like holy shit. And because of that, because of the way he lived his life up to that point, his passing made me go, man, I want to be like that guy, as opposed to some of the other people that just work their life away and they played it safe and they're going to make sure that they don't lose. They play to not lose rather than playing to win. It's like they don't enjoy their life. They don't do things with other people. They don't have fun. They don't have hobbies. They go to work. They come home, they sit on the couch, they watch TV, they might fix supper, and they discipline the kids. It's like that to me is just a completely uninspirational life. And from my opinion, my point of view, that seems like a wasted life to me. But yet that's what the vast majority of people do is come home and watch Monday Night Raw and or Monday Night Football. Um, And that's it. The weekends, they can't look forward to Friday every day of the week. Oh, can't wait till Friday gets here. Can't wait till Friday gets here. Friday gets here. What do? You sit on the couch. You might go mow the grass in your yard. And that is it. Like, what kind of a life is that?
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, think about it. Exactly. You have the Sunday scaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have the Monday blues. You
Mm-hmm.
have hump day, right? Oh, halfway, just 2 more days. You have the countdown. Life is always a countdown.
Yeah,
Here's the
yeah, exactly.
weekend. Well, the weekend's here. What are you going to do with it? I'm going to sit here. I'm going to sit here
Mhm.
and complain. That's also what I'm,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Where
We're just
where
going
you
to
going
sit
on
here and
vacation?
complain. And
I'm
then,
gonna
right?
go. I'm gonna go to the beach and I'm gonna sit down in a recliner and drink Mai Tais and we'll go out to eat.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Now,
We're
in defense of,
we're
in
gonna go.
defense of
We're
lying
gonna
down,
stop sitting so we can go sit somewhere.
here's that's right. Let's go take a break from sitting by sitting over there. I would challenge that with it's not what you're doing, it's the purpose and meaning with which you're doing it. So
That's good. I think joy resonates differently for everyone. And so like what someone else might find joyful, I might find repulsive. You know?
I am thinking of like the beach style vacation where I go sit down and drink and then I go sit down and eat as the same kind of joy that we get from relieving ourselves in the morning. It's not because it's actually pleasurable, it's because we're removing pain.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's
I
just
get
it.
to
It's
get
like,
away
what is
from
your
my pain
definition
for a
of
little while.
joy? Yeah,
And that removal of pain is actually pleasurable.
yeah. Because it's a reprieve. Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's just different. It's funny, I just had a conversation this morning, and we were talking about like a perfect world. And I was like, if I'm being honest, I think I would be bored out of my gourd if everything was perfect. Just asking for any, like, I'm not asking for anything.
Absolutely.
But also, I just think if everything's perfect all the time, at some point that becomes dull,
That's right.
you know,
Oh,
because perfect is it's volatile, it changes. I mean, variety is the spice of life. I mean, on some level, sure, maybe, you know, and also I think it's all relative on like if your life has always been chaotic, then a rest on a beach with a Mai Tai and a dinner feels maybe good, maybe bad. It depends.
that's
You
right.
know?
It can be healing.
Yeah.
Stillness can be healing, right? To
Yeah.
one person, it's experienced as, boredom and not living. To another, it might be the space to be present. Like, oh, I can actually be in my body. I don't have to wait on anyone. I don't have to fetch snacks for anyone and check, groceries and take trash out. I can just be.
It raises a good question because it's a question I had a conversation last night. It's like weird how all this stuff is tying together. I'm just like,
Mhm.
oh my God, I'm listening. I'm divinely guided right now, and it is like loud. But we were talking about what we want and what we like and what brings us joy. That's a really hard question for me often. I don't know because I've never given myself not never. I didn't used to give myself the opportunity to explore what that might be. I just tucked into like, well, what does everyone else want to do? I'm a people, you know? And it's like so many people, I don't think we know what actually brings us joy. If you give me do you want to do A or B? I will pick very quickly. I am very opinionated and I know which I would rather do more. But to ask me a blanket statement, what brings me joy or what do I want in this moment? I don't know. That's a really big question for me.
Indeed.
Mhm. It's no small thing.
But I
I'm
just find it
thinking
fascinating.
of course it is. I'm thinking about a living example of someone who there's one event that took place that I was invited to. It's a neighbor. A neighbor of mine invited me to, his wife invited me. She was throwing him a surprise 60th birthday party. I go to the party. I come there and it is a space filled, filled with people from all walks of life, of different periods of his life, from the various versions of him. So from his work world, his children were all there, happy, like loving. Their best friends are there and love him. His former coworkers are there, love him. His former neighbors are there, also love him. His neighbor friends who he's been close to for like 30 years, there, adore him. Family from other states around the country flew in for him and they are thrilled to be there. It's this like stadium is like a space that they rented out, filled with people. His his wife put on this really thoughtful slideshow of his life and all these incredible memories. And then his adult kids with their best friends went up on the stage and performed his favorite songs, like Barefoot, and everyone's dancing and everyone's happy. And this was earlier in 2024. And I'm looking around and I'm looking at the faces and feeling the energy. And I thought to myself, this is success. This is success. It's his version of success. There isn't one way, but this is a version of success. Like he's happy, he's living, He doesn't have tremendous means. He's not like I don't know where he is, somewhere in the middle, maybe. His career is not out there in the stratosphere, but it's fine. And he really likes his boss and he trusts him. And they have a good relationship. He likes what he does. He loves his wife. He loves his kids. He loves his friends. On the weekends, he goes to concerts. He tries new stuff. He doesn't know if it's his thing. To your point, Michelle, he doesn't know if it'll bring him joy, so he'll try it. He just tries things. And then he discovers it. And then he repeats the things that he really likes. And he keeps it that simple. It's really beautiful and inspiring and simple and accessible because this isn't somebody who has all these privileges and that he made his life. He crafted this. They crafted it together and it's beautiful to see. Yeah. Oh, good people.
What you thinking, Lee?
How y'all feel about trying the off the cuff round table?
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Michelle's got divine inspiration. So like it's about to be channeled through. I mean, it's being channeled through. So yeah. And I'll do off the cuff. My cuffs are pretty big today. So let's do it.
Yeah.
Do you see that?
So what's
Where
the
are we going with the
overarching
round
topic
table?
that we're bringing in here? Is it leaving a legacy or is it leading a good life?
I think it's how we live.
The reflection of death as a way to remind ourselves to lead a good life. All right, I like it. So let's round table it. Just spur of the moment, no prep, nothing at all. Uh, what does it take to lead a good life?
Oof. In our usual order, I am kicking off as number one.
We like to
Number
make sure
one.
you go up front. That way, we know what not to say.
You know what? I like that. Oh, work on yourself. Look in the mirror. Really look. Don't turn away. If you see something that you don't like or makes you uncomfortable, get curious about it. Don't just put a blanket or a coat on and move away from the mirror. Stand there and look at yourself and decide what you want to do with what you see.
I love that. I love that you use the word decide because that's literally like if I were to sum it up in one word, I would just say decide. Decide for yourself. I feel like take inventory. We so often go through life in our routines, in our status quo, so to speak. We have our ways. And if we don't take inventory and reassess and reevaluate those ways, how can we possibly know if anything needs to shift? It's easy to just be in autopilot. So take a pause and take inventory and notice and don't be afraid to decide something's ready to go to create space for something new.
Mm-hmm. That's right, girl.
Please say spoon and go to sleep with a boob in your hand every night. For all the men out there, or the people who like boobs.
You, you just gave me my number. I was thinking about number three. I've got one and two lined out. I know what number three is now. Let me scribble this down.
Yeah, keep it. Keep it.
So number one is play to win, don't play to not lose. And playing to not lose looks like I'm playing it safe. I'm playing based on fear. I'm playing to get by. Like whenever I ask people how they're doing and they say, well, I'm making it. It really bothers me. It bothers me way down deep in my core, and because getting by is the absolute bare minimum. It's survival. And survival is just, we have more available to us now as human beings than we've ever had before, ever. There's no reason to try to just get by. The survival mode is in our head, it's our thoughts. If instead we can take and switch those thoughts to what do I really truly want to create? What would be playful? What would be fun? And start to aim for what we want and start to play to win, it makes for a completely different life. And if you look at sports teams over the many, many years that we've been playing sports as humans, whenever a team starts to play it safe and play to not lose, that's when the other team starts to take over almost every time. So we play to win. We play all out, even at the risk of failing and losing it all, because you know what? At the end of the day, it's still going to be okay. So let's play to win.
Mm, I love that. My number two is be here now. Don't be somewhere else. Be here. Be present. Don't sit and wallow in regret. Don't sit in what hasn't yet happened that might not. Be here. Be now. Be with those who are near you right now. Be present.
Lee, you said play to win. And that word play, it was like it neon light
Mhm.
highlighted, like it lit up like a Christmas tree for me. And so I'm dancing around with like, what's the message? I think part of my miserable part of my that I describe as my painful part of my life was so incredibly painful because I always cared what people thought of me, and therefore I played it small.
Mhm.
And that made it hard to play. And so, if that resonates with you in any way, shape, or form, find a time where you can be in a space by yourself and get goofy, get silly, do something, find, explore. It might take you a hot second because if you're a person who doesn't play, be silly to the point where you giggle from the gut, like it bubbles from your toes and it comes all the way out through the top of your head and you giggle and like that's joy. That's joy. That's what joy feels like. So if you've never done that, like just, but don't do it when there's people there who can judge you or you feel like you might be watched. Do it all, but keep it like it's your safe, sacred, personal practice to just find out what might make you giggle from the inside out and play. It's a clue as to like a what joy feels like and then what might bring you joy and it might surprise you. I'm not talking about like I think when we do this work, it's like connect with your inner child and play because you didn't get to as a kid. No, just like today. What makes you giggle today? What can you do that's silly and goofy that can bubble that up within you? And I have the goosebumps as I'm talking about it. So I don't know where this is going or why it's so important, but it feels really important. Explore, play alone so that you can get a smidgen, a hint of what joy feels like. And I say that as if no one knows. And I don't mean to imply that, but I think many of us don't.
I think we forget.
Yeah. Like
It's all
life
the,
piles up on us, the responsibilities and the duties and the importance of us wanting
yep.
to leave a legacy. And then it's like, wait, this is all work and no play and
Mhm.
no joy and no fun. Where's the fun?
Mhm. So my next one, let me bring people with you.
Mm.
And I'm thinking about Many of my favorite times ever, the times where I had the deepest laughs, the just those deep belly chuckles that go down and hurt you on the insides because it's so deep. But it's that good hurt that every time I've ever had that, somebody's been with me. I've never had that alone. So to bring people along on our adventures and to be able to have those kinds of moments with others, uh, that's where the true magic lies. To find that the best friend, the spouse, or whoever, just to cut up with and play. And you know how much easier it is to feel safe whenever you have somebody there next to you being just as goofy and just as corny. And now all of a sudden, whenever you're a team, it's like, ooh, it feeds off each other. Um, like me and my best friend, when we go to places and we start cutting up, other people will look at us like we are freaking insane. And it's my favorite moments from times like when we would drive through backwards through a drive through, or we had a hot rod on a trailer. He hopped in the hot rod and I trailered him through a fast food drive in. Or the time we went drive by squirt gunning people. Um, like so many great moments that wouldn't have happened if I didn't have somebody else there with me just to just cut up and have fun.
Mm. This wouldn't have been complete without joy and without community mentioned in some way. I love everything that we're mentioning here. I think my number three is going to be unbox yourself. Unbox yourself. Yeah. So allow yourself to feel the big feelings, to love really hard, to laugh and snort, to dance poorly, to make mistakes, to trip up. Allow it all to happen so that you can actually meet yourself and get to know yourself. Because if you keep living in the box, and we're all given a box, like just about when we're an infant is when it starts, as we start being boxed in by societal norms and expectations and all those other things that are often well-meaning, we don't get to meet ourselves. So that's it. My number three.
You kept saying box and I kept thinking coffin, which is so interesting. It's like you put yourself in that box. You're not fully living if you're in a box that's not for you, you know? I don't know. That was weird. That was a weird visual that kept happening when you were saying box. So I just wanted to share that.
Oh, it got me thinking about a zombie. Like, how many of us go through our life as adults as just zombies?
Yep.
We're alive, but we're the walking dead.
Yeah. My three is messy for sure. But Lee, when you were talking about the memories and you were recalling things that happy moments in your life, if the play thing that I gave in my number two is super challenging and doesn't feel accessible, reflect and pull forward memories that make you smile and maybe even like unpack them a little bit, like analyze them a little bit. Like, what about that was it that made it fun? Was it the company I was with? Was it the weird situation that unexpected that happened that made it fun and funny, but maybe it wasn't funny at the time, but it's funny now? Like what, like just build some awareness around that, around what that is. And then I think part two of my part three is there's a little secret out there that we talk about, but I think many of us don't believe. And that is everyone else is too busy thinking about themselves to be worrying about what you're doing. Like we're all doing that. And so there's a bit of that when you can actually believe it that does bring some comfort and give you a little bit bigger permission to explore and play and be silly and do stupid shit because no one's judging you. They're busy trying to figure out how they cannot be embarrassed or judged or whatever. And so it creates a smidgy of freedom when you can actually understand and realize that we're all in our own heads. We're all the center of our own universe. And it's not really always like you can think it's about you. And I don't mean this from an ego perspective. I mean this from a keeping hidden perspective, right? Like you can think that it's about you and everyone's thinking all these things, but most of them are in their own head worrying about the same things you're worrying about yourself. And so if that helps at all, I don't know. But I think at some point when I started to actually understand and see examples of that being true, it did help me just sort of like take myself out of the box a little bit more, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the reminders that I get to have when I look at the writings on the bench dedications or visit cemeteries is in the end, it does not matter. Like, were they ever embarrassed? Were they scared to try something new? Guess what? Their time's up in this lifetime, at least. So you might as well do now.
Mhm. All right, I'm gonna wrap this monkey up. I'm gonna encapsulate it like a really safe boob. Rediscover childlike wonder. Remember that time before we started to judge everything and have responsibility and worry about I'm watching my children grow up and they're getting to that middle school age where there is all this judgment going back and forth. And my middle daughter, she's starting to worry about how she presents in the world. And she's got the makeup now and she's dressing her hair a certain way. When before that, before this tween thing started happening, there was no give a shit about all that. That childlike wonder was still there. And it was to be a kid again and to be able to go into that world of imagination or to experience things like we are experiencing for the first time again. That right there. You remember those times when you go, wow, I didn't know that was possible, or wow, look how big that is, or wow, look at that color red. Just thinking about how many sunsets we've managed to see and then kind of just, man, it's a sunset. Versus when you go out and go, wow, look at that sunset. So let's rediscover that childlike wonder and start to remember that there was a time whenever things weren't mundane, they were new and wonderful. All right, y'all. We're gonna wrap this sucker up.
You just froze.
Oh,
Are you
really?
freeze for you, Alina?
I saw Lee freeze, and thankfully the freezing happened at the moment that we were about to press stop record.
Oh yeah,
Cool.
he's back.
Yeah. I've been here all along.
Oh,
Not for us. Well, you've been there, but you've been frozen in a pocket of time.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I just got a message that says my internet connection is unstable. So y'all managed to catch, well, hell, it's recording on my computer, so nobody missed anything.
There you go.
All right. Well, I'll say it again.
for
All right,
today.
then. Wrapping it up. See you. Thank you for listening to That's a Great Point with Alina Doran, Michelle Albers, and Lee Smart. To find out more about how we can serve you, check out our links in the show description. Thanks for playing along.